Somewhere in northwestern Iran, there is a village where people have lived inside volcanic rock for over 700 years. They didn't build their homes, they carved them. This isn't a film set, it isn't a ruin. People are cooking dinner in there right now. Iran is one of the most visually misunderstood countries on the planet. Millions of people form an opinion of it without ever seeing what it actually looks like. What it looks like is this. Iran is the 17th largest country on Earth. It sits at the crossroads of 6 civilizations. It has been continuously inhabited for over 7,000 years, and most people couldn't name a single village inside it. That's not an accident. For decades, Iran has existed in most Western minds as a series of news headlines, not as a landscape, not as a culture, not as a place where ordinary people wake up every morning and walk outside into something extraordinary. But here's what the headlines never show you. Iran contains some of the most dramatically varied terrain on the planet. In the north, the Alborz Mountains trap moisture from the Caspian Sea, creating dense jungle provinces that feel more like Southeast Asia than the Middle East. In the northwest, volcanic plateaus gave ancient communities their building material, not stone quarried from the earth, but the earth itself, hollowed out and inhabited. In the Central Highlands, villages sit in valleys so remote that their dialects have changed almost nothing in 1,000 years. Today, we're visiting 5 of them. 5 villages that most people, including most Iranians from the big cities, will never see in their lifetimes. In the Alborz Mountains of Gilan province, there is a village where roads don't exist, not because they haven't been built, because there's no room for them. Masuleh is a 10th century village built on a slope so steep that the architects made a decision that seems almost too simple to be brilliant. One family's roof became the next family's floor. The village is essentially a single continuous building, terraced up the mountain like a living pyramid, 1,050 meters above sea level, wrapped in mist for much of the year. Cars are banned inside Masuleh, have been for decades. If you need to move anything heavy, furniture, supplies, a refrigerator, you carry it. Every household in this village is accessible only on foot, either by the labyrinthine stone stairs connecting the levels or across the living rooftops of your neighbors. And here's what nobody tells you about Masuleh. It sits at exactly the right altitude to become an island. When the valley clouds rise in the morning, Masuleh disappears inside them. For hours, the village exists above the weather. The upper levels see blue sky, while the lower streets are deep in cloud. On those mornings, children in Masuleh walk to school through the sky. The village has been continuously inhabited since the 10th century CE. It survived Mongol invasions, Safavid rule, the Qajar dynasty, and the 20th century, each era leaving a layer in the architecture. Some walls are original mud brick, 1,000 years old. Some are timber additions from the Safavid period. Some are modern concrete repairs that the locals paint yellow to match. The population today is around 500 people, a fraction of what it was at Masuleh's peak, but they're still here, still carrying things up the stairs, still watching the clouds rise every morning from their rooftop courtyards. But as stunning as Masuleh is, it's not the most unusual village we're visiting today, because the next one wasn't built at all. It was hollowed out of a mountain. Most people have heard of Cappadocia, the Turkish cave village carved into volcanic rock that fills every travel influencer's Instagram. Far fewer people know that Iran has its own version, and some archaeologists believe it's older. Kandavan is a village built inside the natural volcanic cones of the Sahand mountain range. The cones were formed by the eruption of Mount Sahand thousands of years ago. Compressed volcanic ash hardened into these pointed spires over millennia, and somewhere around 3,400 years ago, humans looked at them and thought, "Those are rooms." They started carving. They haven't really stopped since. Today, approximately 170 families still live in Kandavan. Their homes are not reconstructions or tourist properties. They are working residences, expanded and modified across generations, equipped with electricity and running water, all threaded through walls of solid volcanic rock. The thermal properties of the rock make Kandavan one of the most energy-efficient places to live in the entire Middle East. Summer temperatures inside the cones stay around 16 degrees Celsius. No air conditioning required. Winters, the rock holds heat. The ancient builders understood physics they had no equations for. And this is what makes Kandavan unlike anything else on this list. It is not preserved, it is not restored, it is not a museum piece, it's a living village that has been continuously occupied for longer than the Roman Empire existed. The steps to some of these homes are so worn that the stone has polished to a mirror. You can feel the weight of every person who climbed them before you. But the villages of Iran don't only go up, some of them go red. There are villages that look like they've been there a long time, and then there's Abyaneh, which looks like it predates the concept of time. Abyaneh sits at 2,228 meters in the Karkas mountain range of central Iran. It's been continuously inhabited for at least 2,500 years. Some historians push that estimate back significantly further. The current village structure dates largely from the Sassanid period, the pre-Islamic Persian Empire that ruled from the 3rd to 7th centuries CE. The color isn't paint, it's the mountain itself. The local soil is saturated with iron oxide, hematite, which gives every structure in the village its distinctive red ochre hue. For thousands of years, builders simply mixed local earth with their construction materials. The village became a single, continuous expression of the landscape it grew from. Walking through Abyaneh is disorienting in the best possible way. The alleyways are so narrow that two people cannot walk side by side. The houses rise 3 and 4 stories above you on either side, wooden balconies carved with pre-Islamic geometric patterns, the same patterns that appear in Sassanid stonework across Iran. Above the village, a Zoroastrian fire temple watches from the hillside, predating the Islamic conquest by 1,000 years. And then there's the language. Abyaneh's residents speak a dialect of Middle Persian, the language of the Sassanid Empire, that linguists describe as a living fossil. While the rest of Iran shifted to modern Persian over the centuries, Abyaneh remained isolated enough in its mountain valley that the language barely changed. When a linguist from Tehran visits Abyaneh, she can understand roughly half of what the elders say. The other half belongs to a Persian that hasn't been widely spoken for 1,400 years. But if Abyaneh is ancient in color and language, the next village on our list is ancient in its very design, and it raises questions that archaeologists are still arguing about. There are 2 staircase villages in Iran so visually dramatic that people frequently mistake their photos for composites, images too perfect to be real. Masuleh is one, Palangan is the other. Located in the mountains of Kurdistan province near the Iraq border, Palangan is a Kurdish village of approximately 2,500 people built along both banks of the Aravand River Gorge. The terrain here is so steep that the architects, across generations spanning at least 700 years, developed the same solution Masuleh developed independently in the north. Your neighbor's roof is your road. The difference with Palangan is scale. Where Masuleh is a single hillside, Palangan occupies a full river gorge, rising steeply on both sides, connected by small bridges across the water. From above, it looks like someone poured a city into a crack in the mountains, and it just settled there, filling every available surface. The people of Palangan are Kurdish, part of the wider Kurdish cultural region that spans Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. Their relationship with this landscape stretches back centuries. The village is not just a settlement, it is a defense system, a water management strategy, and a community structure simultaneously. Every house in Palangan has a view. There is no bad real estate here. The poorest houses in the village occupy positions that would command 7-figure prices in any Western coastal city. But here's what strikes you most when you stand in Palangan. It isn't quiet. This is not a preserved village, not a heritage site behind glass. The people of Palangan are living their ordinary Tuesday. They're shopping, arguing, cooking, laughing. The extraordinary setting is just the backdrop, which is the thing about all of these villages. They don't exist for us. They exist because people need somewhere to live, and this is where their families have always lived. Until 1946, the outside world did not know Makunik existed. When researchers first reached this remote settlement in the mountains of South Khorasan, they found something they hadn't expected. The houses were tiny, consistently, impossibly tiny. Doors under 5 feet high, ceilings barely clearing the head of a standing adult, and the local oral histories told of ancestors who were smaller still. The stories were initially dismissed. Then, archaeologists arrived. What they found suggested that for centuries, possibly millennia, the people of Makunik had lived in a state of resource scarcity so severe that it affected their physiology across generations. The village sits at 1,600 meters in one of the driest landscapes in Iran. The dietary record found in the site suggests chronic protein deficiency extending across multiple generations. The result was a population with an average historical height, according to skeletal evidence and house measurements, of around 100 to 110 centimeters. They were not a mythological people. They were not a separate lineage. They were Iranian villagers in an extremely isolated location, adapting to conditions that pushed the limits of human endurance. And they endured. 5 villages. 5 communities that built their homes in caves, on cliffsides, inside volcanic rock, above river gorges, in one of the driest corners of the earth. Every story told about a country is incomplete. Every image is a fragment. The news cycle gives you one frame. A documentary gives you 5 villages. Neither is the whole picture. But this is a different 5 frames than you had before you clicked play. If Iran surprised you today, the next video takes you somewhere even fewer people have ever seen. The hidden canyon cities of Yemen, the cliff villages of Ethiopia, and the floating archipelago settlements of the Philippines. Drop a comment with which country you want us to visit next, and if you made it this far, subscribe. New unseen places every week.